And good morning. Today is Monday, October 17th, and we are continuing our conversations with the candidates. Over the last couple of weeks, we have been chatting with candidates from local races all the way up to Congressional District 1 and 2. Later this week, we have Governor McKee, we have David Cicilline, getting through all the candidates here in October because early voting starts on Wednesday. We are just 2 days away from early voting starting at your board of canvassers, and then the general election coming up here quickly on November 8th. Today we are in Senate District 12, and he is Senator Lou DiPalma. And good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Ryan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, for those that don't know, you are an incumbent and you are seeking re-election. But I also want to make sure that we mention at least once or twice, you have an event coming up tonight.
I do. It's the 6th annual cyber hygiene event, co-hosted by myself and Congressman Langevin. And it's something I've done literally over the last 6 years. This is the first time we'll be getting back together again since the pandemic in 2020, I guess.
2020, yeah.
And this is Cybersecurity Awareness month of October.
And it's over at CCRI in Newport, the CCRI Newport campus. And what time is it again?
It is from 6 p.m. until 7:30. Open to everybody. It's free. And I promise everybody will walk away with at least one thing they'll be able to do to protect themselves, their family, their data, or their identity.
And people can find more information available on whatsupnuke.com. I have the story up there as well as the link as an event today. This has been one of your causes that you've really gotten behind. How come?
It's critically important. It's something unfortunate we need to do. It's never going away. And I never use the word never. I say you never use the word never unless you're talking about your spouse or significant other. All, none, never, and forever. But the least little thing you do potentially can impact everything you do. And so I want to ensure people of all ages, those who are just starting with a computer or an iPhone or anything that's connected to the network, or those in their later years in life that are connecting with family on all kinds of devices, can have the appropriate awareness of what they should be thinking about.
For those that may be new to the area, might be voting for the first time, they don't know who Senator Lou DiPalma is. Remind us who you are and what you do.
So I'll start by I'm married. I'll be married 39 years in December. My wife and I live in Middletown, where we have for 37 of our 39 years. We have 2 daughters that live very close to us with their husbands, and 5 grandchildren, 6, 5, 4-year-old grandsons, a 2-year-old and 22-month-old granddaughter. So to me, family is front and center. It's most important. I think it is for everybody. So that's somewhat expected to say. I'm originally from Connecticut, came here to Rhode Island just 39 years ago. I'm starting my 40th year at Raytheon, where I'm a chief engineer for our undersea systems business area. And I love it. I just started my 40th year. And at the end of the day, I believe what I've done there in the private side, what I do on the public side, is a great intersection because I'm able to use the skills that are needed, both on the private side, in industry, on the public side, in politics, etc., have provided me the right kind of background and experiences to, I think, make me effective. One of the things I say to folks, you'll hear me talk about 2 words, facts and data. As an engineer, we appreciate people's opinions, but the facts and the data have to borne out about why the system does what it does. Opinions are great because that's experience, but then the facts and data. And I bring that to the public side of my life at the state Senate. I'm seeking my 8th term in the Senate. I've been in for 14 years, 7 terms. Prior to that, I was on the Middletown Town Council for 2 terms.
40 years. I didn't realize it had been that long at Raytheon. Congratulations.
Yeah. I say to folks, it's not one of those things where, and I always started this way, I did not plan to be there that long. I didn't plan to be there that long. I like the work. I like the people I work with. I like where I live. It's hard not to like living where we do out of Quinnipiac Island. And I like how they, the compensation benefits package. But most importantly, it's the work every day and the people that I work with.
Yeah. Back in June, all the candidates had to file their declarations of candidacy. What makes you decide to put your name back on the ballot?
A couple reasons. One, I think we made a lot of advances, literally somewhat of a crescendo. So the other thing about me, I played the accordion in the past, so I can read music, and a crescendo is picking up in volume. Over the last many years, we've turned the corner with regards to putting in fiscally responsible budgets, things that both need to address short-term issues, but don't just and the long-term, but don't just put a Band-Aid on something from a long-term perspective. Put the right things in place so long-term we'll reap those rewards. With that as a backdrop, and the work that we've done for the last 2 years, and the investments we've made with the extreme surpluses we had in the budget by putting the right budget in place, clearly the additional $1 billion from the federal government, one-time investments we're making, there's more to be done. I want to, as chair of the Senate Committee on Rules, Government Ethics, and Oversight, and first vice chair of the Senate Committee on Finance, there's more to be done. And I think those skills, and I've been on finance for 14 years, those skills and experiences I want to be able to bring back. And obviously, at the end of the day, I always say to folks, it's about the residents of District 12. So,
great segue. For those who are wondering, Senate District 12, how do you describe it for those who are wondering if you're their senator?
I describe District 12 as all of Middletown, all of Little Compton, Southern Tiverton, and the northeast corner of Newport. And then someone will say, what is Southern Tiverton? How's that defined? Well, it just changed. So if you think about Bogamarsh Road in Nanaquacket, it's on the west, Nanaquacket, come across Bogamarsh Road, that's 177, go up Fish Road, and it's the east side of Fish Road to Route 81. Everything south. In the northeast corner of Newport, if you go down Bliss Road, for the most part, it's the east side of Bliss Road down to Broadway down to Cranston Street. So I'm fortunate to have Newport Hospital in my district. The north side of Cranston, and then you wander your way back to the ponds. And I do have a piece, because of the population in the state of Rhode Island growing, I have a piece around Jesus Savior Church, which I had back when I first joined the Senate in 2009 through 2012. We did redistricting back then. The population in the state moved north, so I lost that piece. I had basically Broadway all the way down to Cranston Street.
And you just answered some of it, but Scott asks, why did they change the districts? I live in Tiverton and was in District 11, and now I'm in District 12.
The couple basic reasons. One, the population of the state with the last census was 1,050,000 people. So the districts grew. That's one of the reasons they grew. Another thing was the council, and I think residents of Tiverton. I wasn't part of the redistricting committee. One of the things that came back was Tiverton wanted to have 2 senators instead of 3. So it got split up between 2 and 3. But the biggest reason the districts grew, and if you think about some of the dynamics, and some of this came about with the redistricting done and the downsizing of the General Assembly 22 years ago. When we're on islands, we can, in order to grow districts, you move off the island. That's why District 12 at one point didn't have Little Compton and Tiverton as a part of it. When Senator Gibbs, may she rest in peace, back in 2020, when we voted on that to downsize the General Assembly by 25%, it manifested itself that 50 senators to 38, Middletown and Little Basic. I remember Senator Gibbs, like I said, may she rest in peace, had advertised that because she was an avid windsurfer, even into her 80s. She can get between Middletown and Little Compton by windsurfing.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
It was.
Working with 4 communities, voters in 4 different towns, 4 city governments or town governments. What are the challenges and the opportunities there?
So there are, in some regards, while they're somewhat unique, there's still some basic issues that are reflective in all the cities and towns. Education is education. Education funding is there. When we talk about things like the car tax, which we repealed, all the residents in District 12 benefited and wanted the car tax to be repealed. Less money out of their pocket, clearly given the cost of inflation. With regards to housing, housing has some different challenges. We look at Little Compton that is zoned R80. So if you want to build a house in Little Compton, you need 2 acres. Compare and contrast that, or turn that coin around, and part of the district I have in the northeast corner of Newport, there's a one block that maybe has 6 houses, where in Little Compton I'd have 1. So there's some there's a lot of commonality. Obviously, some of the other areas with Little Compton, with more Newport and Middletown, the issue of short-term rentals has been an issue. Not so much in Tiverton and Little Compton. But my take is I stay engaged with the communities. One of the challenges I have in this district, similar to the folks who have, let's say, Charlestown and in the house anyway, and Block Island, to get from the center of Middletown to the center of Little Compton is about 37 minutes. Most folks have their district, they can circle the entire district in 37 minutes. I just got to go from point A to point B. I enjoy it. There's also the ruralness, obviously many more farms in Little Compton and Tiverton than compared to what there are in Middletown and Newport.
Gordon, you are a member of the Senate Committee on Education, right?
I am.
Yeah. There's a couple conversations being had about education on Aquidneck Island right now.
You are.
Where do you fit in there? And it's the elephant in the room with the regional school district, which in Middletown, I'm trying to say this as often as possible so people understand it. First, go to vote.ri.gov and find your sample ballot. You can see everybody who's running. There'll be some surprises there, maybe. Flip it over. In Middletown, you're going to have 6 questions. And in Newport, you're going to have 10 questions. Question 4 and 5 in Middletown are about regional school district. Both have to pass, as well as the question in Newport has to pass. Where have you been with all of this education talk?
So I support it. I support the reason I put the bills in, myself and Chair Namby on the House side, and Rep. Corcoran. I had the 2 on the Senate side. Rep. Abney had the regionalization legislation in the House, and Rep. Corcoran had the school bond for Middletown in the House. I've looked at it. I know there's a lot of open questions about it. Some people say we should wait. Given what the timetable is, it's just not an option. And as part of it, and as I've been going, as I indicated, thousands of houses, and talking to even more thousands of constituents across the district. And this clearly just Middletown and Newport. Little Compton and Tiverton might know about it, but not reflective out there. There's 2 pieces. There's the education side, and then there's the funding side. As part of the funding and education are buildings. Buildings are front and center. In the case of, I know from looking at the Middletown, I've been supportive of this over the years, supported various council members at council meetings about trying to help facilitate meetings. I've had meetings behind the scenes that I don't talk about because there's no reason to, not recently, but up to 2 years ago, to try and get some groups together about this. Educational programs are front and center. Educational programs are housed in school buildings, and school buildings and education programs are funded by funding. Both communities need buildings. While it's a new facility, and we've seen this in East Providence and other places where they've built some new facilities, the right kind of facility, the right type of environment will engender the kind of education we expect our students to have. It's not the only thing that's there. Educational programs, teachers, professional development, etc., are all critical, though you need the buildings in which to be. The single government, and I think, I believe, so as an engineer, you should say, well, where are the facts and data? They're not there. So that's why I say I believe as things move over time with the single governance model, and with quite a bit of conversation with both Middletown and Newport as they pulled that together and got it over the goal line in the General Assembly, they have a very shared approach to the governance of the system, both from a school committee perspective and from a finance perspective, unlike any other combined district in the state. When this was presented before the Education Committee in the Senate, one of the senators that represents Foster Gloucester said, wow, I wish we had that. You folks really thought about what you're looking at. Some folks are concerned with regards to having a bad taste left in their mouth by conversations that were had a year ago or 2 years ago on some of this. I understand that. I appreciate it. It's hard for some folks to, they may have forgiven other folks. It's hard to forget. I believe, though, moving forward with the regional district is the right thing to do. Those on fixed income, as I've been talking to some folks, are supportive of it. They realize that just take a Quinnick school. You can only put so much money into a Quinnick school where you're going to put more good money after bad, and no one's going to want to do that. Now what do we do? Now we need a new elementary school. What do we do? The cost for that? And who's going to bear that cost? All of us in Middletown. Similar with Newport, the cost for Rogers High School. And I think as we look forward, and this has been discussed, two other areas with regards to Thompson Junior High, they're figuring out what needs to happen with that next. I think there's some possibility as you put this new governance model in place. How do you bring the two together? And I think the concern folks have, well, if in transportation, you save 50% of the cost on transportation. So you go from about a 50% reimbursement on buildings to 80% on buildings. That's a lot of money to taxpayers, which at the end of the day, it's what folks care about. One of the key criteria as I go to district was the cost of living. The other piece on transportation, you get a 50% reduction in reimbursement in transportation. People said, well, let's take that money and put it into the education fund. Well, unless you set something up specially, no council or school committee can tie the hands of any future council or school committee at any level, because the next governing body that comes in has the wherewithal to do what they need to do and what they want to do. So.
If I know you won't, you could probably support or advocate for it, but if it passes, we're talking about cost savings in the future next year sometime. Mm-hmm. Where would you like to see some of the cost savings go?
I think there's clearly some of the educational programs, whether it's and at both ends of the spectrum. I think the educational programs for English language learners, for special ed costs to the districts. I know when I was on the council, one of my last years, special ed costs went $1 million from 1 year to the next. That's a big hit on the cost. And people say, well, they cost too much. I'm not an educator. I know I'll ask questions. I'll seek probing questions to make certain the answer is right. I think that's one area. Clearly, there's money going. The buildings are being taken care of by that. I think the other end of the spectrum as well, with regards to, there's two areas, two more. One is the folks that are pursuing, students that are pursuing advanced placement. What are we doing at that end of the spectrum as well? The third area that's really been left with minimal, I'll say some funding, minimal, moderate funding, is in the whole area of career and tech education. It's an area that's ripe. Anybody who knows about calling an electrician, a plumber, a roofer, a carpenter, HVAC, you name it, we'll see in a month, maybe. Is it an emergency? Put a bucket under right now. I can't get to you for 3 days. And so it's mechanics. I mean, I was talking with a local mechanic to try and get a car inspected. And it's one of those where I've been going for 39 years. Lou, probably next week, I'm done mechanic.
Yeah.
So I think those three areas: English language learners and special ed, the advanced students with advanced placement, and then the career and tech ed. And I think that would help bolster what we really need from a community perspective. And then really looking at this whole controversy on the ride test stuff, and I've been looking at it quite a bit from a oversight perspective. How is that informing what we need? So there again, facts and data. The Rhode Island standardized tests that we're having now, as the summative tests, the formative tests that are happening throughout the year, how are those informing what we need? So facts and data should help guide where we need to go from an education programming perspective.
I have one more question on school, but while we're talking about career tech and those positions, I'm wondering, as someone who works at Raytheon, and what can we do to best place our kids, our community, in a place to get those jobs at Newark and to support the Raytheons and to support all of these great companies that are on the island that people stay at for 40 years. But is there something we can actually do to start filling the jobs from homegrown?
I think there is. I think it comes back to the basics. It really does. It's there again, my wife's a retired teacher. My daughter's a teacher. My wife's whole family retired teachers. I had my mother-in-law, may she rest in peace, as a teacher in high school a long time ago. I think at the end of the day, it's about the basic English language arts, mathematics. It's focusing on those basics. We need the school counseling stuff. There is trauma in school. There is mental health challenges in school. We have to help all of that because children are coming from all kinds of environments, coming to school. They need those kinds of supports. But I think the basic math, science is clearly what's in exposing students to that. And as importantly, we need more women in science, technology, engineering, and math, categorically. And I think that's what I've seen, because I serve on the Industrial Advisory Board for the Brown School of Engineering. I've been on there for a while. I got my master's at Brown in computer science. But it's one of those where if you can engage women by sixth grade, if you lose them by sixth grade, you never come back. If you engage them by math and science by sixth grade, I think those are the kinds of things. And there was a program this summer called STEAM Camp run by Gail Pont over at Gaudet. I went over for the day, and it was basically supported by federal money where DOD installations are, and watching the students working in teams, doing various and sundry things as it relates to science, technology, engineering, and math. Those are the kinds of things that we need to continue.
And I encourage people, just last week, Senator Reed and crew were at Pell School, $500,000 grants to support STEAM and STREAM education. So people can read more about that online. I've interviewed just about every Newport City Councilor, every candidate. The majority are leaning or, are not supporting the regional school district for one reason or the other. A lot of people want data. A lot of people want research. You certainly do as well. But what's one thing you would use for people to reconsider if they're on the no side of why to vote yes here in the next couple of weeks?
A couple things. One of the key drivers here, and like I said, as a 14-year member of the Senate, people want to ensure more than anything else, a tax dollar that they pay is getting $1 worth of value. My take on it is I want 110% worth of value. What does that mean? How do we marry up $1 with at least 10%, really more than that in the case of infrastructure, 50% of federal or something else? We need new school buildings. There's no denying that. There's facts and data to substantiate that. I think what folks need to look at is, as it moves forward, the school committee that they will vote for come 2024, the regional school, or the 23, 24, I've got the language, we would hold them accountable to figure out how to then advance the educational programs for the regional district. It's the case where the legislation, the money the states put forward with the additional bonuses is not going to last forever. So opportunity is knocking. I would say there's some trust that has to be put in place here. There's going to be a new district, new governance model put in place here between Middletown and Newport, along with the finance side of things. I'd ask folks to look at that, and if they have a question, what data are they looking for? And I've had some conversations with folks as I've been walking door to door, and people say, well, I need some more data. I say, okay, what is that? Okay. So I've connected them up with somebody because I was answered the question to the degree I had it. And I'm a firm believer. I know what I know, and there's a lot I don't know, but I'm going to say, call Ryan. Ryan will have the answer for you, or he can get the answer for you. So I think without having the specific information, I think it's the case of there's no denying the school infrastructure. The buildings aren't needed. The ability to work collaboratively together is front and center here right now. People say, well, it was before. Middletown said no. they're absolutely right. That's a fact. The ability to move forward with a single governance model, single superintendent, et cetera, I think will bode well for K-12, pre-K-12 education for the next couple generations. I think that, this is a real opportunity that we need to figure out how to seize and move forward with. I understand there's open questions, but as leaders need to be able to say, we have to make decisions with the facts and data that we have, whether that's 75% or 80% or 70, whatever number, and then say, I know what I don't know. I'm going to get those answers as I move forward. That's what I think constituents expect leaders to be able to do. And I don't have the answers to everything. I never will. But I will certainly get the answers for my constituents, and I hope other leaders will do the same.
Lou, there's a couple more questions on the ballot. One is about actually the Senate and the House General Assembly sent it back to each city and town. One of them that almost every community in Rhode Island will be voting on is the cannabis, the right for communities to set that up. You got 4 communities. What are you hearing out there?
Not much. People are caring about one thing, really. The thousands of folks that I've talked to going door to door, the cost of living is killing me.
Yeah.
Eggs, bread, milk. Oh, by the way, yes, I did get a raise. I got additional funds since the pandemic came because of the supply and demand of workers. It's all, and set aside the gas, right? There's very little we can do with regards to, except for the gas tax piece, which funds infrastructure projects. And everybody wants to talk about that. We can talk about that for hours. But there's little we can do with regards to the Ukraine and what's happening with the oil there, or OPEC, what's happening with oil. But there's things that we can do and we have done over the last year, just this past budget, with regards to eliminating the car tax, getting rid of the income tax on military pensions, $250 tax credit up to 3 children, income limited, a increase in limits with regards to income tax reduction on Social Security, and it goes on and on from there. We need to do more of those. It has not come up in the thousands of people I've talked to, the issue of cannabis.
Yeah, I've had some worries on whether people are going to be surprised on some of the things that are on the ballot when they flip it over the next couple of weeks. But I'd imagine you'd probably agree that passing something like I'm trying to make sure it's the same question. It's not. The regional school district or the cannabis and communities might help with tax money, which might lower the cost of living in that community if the community has more taxes.
It could, but here's the piece I've always said. So with regards to the cannabis piece, like gambling, right? When we expanded gambling in Newport and then it went to Tiverton, we should be doing things from the right policy perspective. If it's the right policy, that's good. Whatever comes from that comes from that. We get ourselves into trouble when we vote on a bill or legislation because of the money it's going to bring if it's not the right policy. So I didn't support the expansion of gambling before because I thought it doesn't add to the gross domestic product of the state of Rhode Island. It's a money sink, right? It goes. We could talk about over $2+ billion that goes into the video lottery terminals, and we make about $300 million a year. $2 billion. Granted, not all Rhode Island, there's massive amount. Okay, that goes into the general fund. But the piece about the cannabis piece, unclear what those numbers will be. I didn't support that either. And the reason being is the impact and what we heard on children, on the impact on brain development, et cetera. And some of my colleagues there said, well, we're going to make a lot of money. I understand we may make some money, but we got to look at things. Policy has to come first all the time. So people say, well, aren't you concerned about the impact to your constituents on the fiscal impact? I am. Guess what? Fiscal impact of addressing the negative impacts of cannabis, or I'd be yelled at. They said marijuana, so I'll say it once because someone's going to yell at me once about it. We have to be concerned about that as well. So
Lou, you do have an opponent. For people who are looking at the ballot, what's the biggest differences?
I think experience and results. And I say the one thing, I'm a firm believer, and one thing you can count on me: say what I'm going to do, and do what I say. And I talk about getting results for my district, for District 12, and front and center as we make. And I've been, and like I said, even when I was on the council, it's about what do the residents need and want, but need has to come first. Necessary versus nice to have, and then same thing in the General Assembly. The results I've been able to bring back to the district over the last 14 years, I think, is front and center. Whether it's infrastructure projects, in the case of Middletown, the Aquidneck Avenue project that the town's been looking at for a long time, it's going on now. If we look about Little Compton, the Little Compton center of town, Commons, south of Commons, Meeting House Lane, DOT was there. That project was 5 or 6 years later. We've accelerated that project back. In Tiverton, East Road was forgot, piece of East Road. One side was done from 77, the other part from on the east from 81, and the part in the middle was left behind. Call DOT and say, what are we doing about this? Got it done. So from a results perspective, it's has everything been perfect? Absolutely not. Categorically not. But I think at the end of the day, the focus that I've had on the constituents of District 12 and a fair amount of effort in those that are most vulnerable in our state: seniors, individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, children in the care of the state, have been front and center. I said when I joined the Senate, said to my wife and family, I want to ensure I'm the eyes, the ears, and the mouth for those folks who aren't going to be at the State House. So if you're a senior living in a nursing home, fixed income, don't drive, you're not coming to the State House. If you're an individual with intellectual development disabilities, we see some of them, they're not coming to the State House. Their family's all consumed with helping them at home, live their daily life. If you're a child or have children in care of DCYF, Department of Children, Youth, and Families, you're probably not coming to the State House. And how do I help? I just help facilitate a family who's been looking to try and get a child they've had in foster care for almost 7 years. They just got that child adopted. Not because I said change the process or say you need to go do this. It's like, let's raise the level of importance and urgency on something to say, Ryan, can you go look at this? Yeah. Oh, wow. This is, so they've had this child for when he was 10 months. He's now 8.
Wow.
He just adopted.
As somebody who grew up in Rhode Island DCYF and foster care and spent almost my entire childhood, I certainly appreciate your work there to help that family. I don't know them, but I will say this, and it's a compliment for you as well as everybody, all of our senators as well as representatives in Newport County. Newport County is extremely lucky. I can call, email, text 11, 12, 13, anyone on the island, and I get answers back. I get you and I think there's something probably every week we're catching up over something, but you guys all do a great job of at least staying in communication with me, and I'm sure that passes over to the voters.
And I always say to folks, we're not going, and I don't say this because of what I want to say next, we are not going to agree on everything. We're just not. I like to think we are, and if we do, there's a problem, because then that means I'm placating to you and I'm everything to everybody, I'm nothing to nobody in the end. But I said the one thing you can count on is we'll have a fact and data-driven discussion. I want to hear your sides. I can change my mind if there's facts and data that will provide a different basis upon which to think about something. But it's important that constituents, no matter who they are, and one woman in I think she lived in West Warwick. I had known her for a bunch of years through the work I've done on individuals with intellectual development disabilities. She had a horrendous time finding a placement for her son. The state could not get out of its own way. They couldn't. Got to what new director came in. I said, Director, we need you to help figure this out. This mom has 3 other kids, divorced from her husband. She's at wit's end. We got it done. The son now is thriving, has a job, rides a bus, lost 40 pounds, just all the right kinds of things. because at the end of the day, I say to folks, I'm not taking no for an answer where yes is the only right answer. The other thing is we have a great, human services group down here, clearly mental health, Newport County Community Mental Health, the entire Aquinic Island, Newport County contingent. There's not a thing that we don't do together. Somebody might be the point person on something, but then there's a whole support team in the past, whether you name it, whether it's the Senate, whether it's the House, and we figure out how to it's about getting stuff done, forgetting about whose name's at the top of the list. So.
Senator, we could certainly talk for a few more hours, but was there anything else that we didn't get to today that you wanted to?
No, I think I guess I'll always leave it. And so let me thank you. I should have thanked you in the beginning for doing this. It's a good forum to be able to do this. We're glad you're doing it. I ask folks to consider me again on November 8th. They have options. I like to think, say to folks, look at the results I've produced over the last 14 years. I will continue to produce those. And nobody does it by themselves. Nobody. You need it. I have to be able to convince my colleagues that these are the right things to do. I think I've done that with my role as First Vice Chair of Finance, my role as Chair of Oversight. I think people know I hold people accountable regardless of who you are. The governor, commissioner of education doesn't make a difference. It's with the board with regards to the cybersecurity stuff, or with the director and what they've done there. We can go on and on, but I will be respectfully direct with everybody, regardless of who it is. I'm not going to play favorites. I can't. I got elected, and I hope to get reelected to do the job and protect the interests of District 12, first and foremost, categorically.
And Senator, I should have said it at the beginning as well. The reason we do these interviews is because of you. In 2020, you gave me a call when COVID was when candidates couldn't campaign, go door to door, and said, how can we introduce people to the candidates? And since then, we've been doing these, and they've been a success, and people love them. So thank you for putting it in my ear to do these. So it's been,
like I said, talk is cheap. You did the work. So yeah. All I had to follow up is, Ryan, are you doing them yet? No.
Yeah, that's it.
We need people to know who the candidates are and who they're not, and ask the hard questions. And if people, by the way, if people want to reach me, phone number is 847-8540. Email is Lewis_DiPalma@yahoo.com. My whole first name, underscore, not dash, whole last name @yahoo.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. You won't find me on Snapchat doing any, or TikTok doing anything standing on my head. I'll put it that way.
Excellent. You got too much going on. You're a busy man. So
I do a lot for my constituents. I don't stand on my head on the beach.
That's it. Senator DiPalma, we appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for doing this.
Of course. And we will talk to you soon. Good luck over the next couple of weeks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. That is Senator Lou DiPalma. If you missed any portion of this interview, want to rewatch it, want to share it with your friends, enemies, voters in District 12, you can find it available on whatsupnuke.com. It'll be there in a video, and we also take it because we know people are busy, like Senator Lou DiPalma, and we turn them into podcasts. So you can listen to them while you're driving. You can listen to them while you're at the gym, walking the dog, whatever you may be doing. So all available on whatsupnuke.com. You can listen. You can also find all of our interviews. We're going to do about 70 of them this month. And you can also find our schedule there of upcoming. We have a very busy week this week. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching.